Greetings, mortals! It is I, Remortis, and today we are finally returning back to Baldur's Gate 3. I know it's been a long time coming, but we're finally here thanks to patch 8 with all the announcements of the new subclasses coming to Baldur's Gate 3. I thought I was done with this game and trying to move on with my life, but they dragged me back in. And oh boy, what do they have for us today? So we're going to be going over the new announced subclasses, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on each subclass and some potential build ideas for some of them. And then also how they kind of compare to how they perform on 5th edition and how I think they'll translate into Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm getting really excited to look at all of these, and I hope you guys stay along, and by all means post down below what you think are going to perform really well, what you think I might get wrong, and of course post what kind of builds you'd like to see. Either way, let's just get right into it, shall we? Alright, let's just go ahead and look at the post they made on Steam, and we will just go through each class as it's listed here, and then we'll share our thoughts and some predictions on how each of these subclasses will perform in Baldur's Gate 3. So starting off, we have the College of Glamour Bard. Basically, in 5th edition, this one is a decent subclass. It's more centered around charming and then controlling more things that are charmed. It gives you more options. Normally when things are charmed, you only get one option. Looks like here we'll be able to technically AoE charm everybody, so might see some interesting interactions here, especially with the weapon dropping of plenty of different enemies. Could be pretty beneficial, especially in the early game. But overall, College of Glamour is pretty decent. I don't think it's going to be nearly as superior as the Swords Bard in Baldur's Gate 3, but I guess we'll have to see if there's any new changes that they made that aren't listed just here. Moving along, the Path of Giants Barbarian is going to be freaking awesome, because not only will you increase your strength, but you also increase your size so that you can throw bigger targets. So say your dwarves and humans who might be a little bit too big for you to throw, you'll be able to throw them a lot easier. And this is just going to make it a lot more fun, especially in multiplayer, so you can throw your friends around. But yeah, Path of Giants is going to be really good. I already can tell. It's pretty fun in the tabletop, so it's going to be fantastic in Baldur's Gate 3. Alright, so moving on to the Death Cleric. Probably one of my favorite cleric subclasses to play as. Mainly because I like the first level dip into Death Domain Cleric, and then doing the rest into Necromancer. So in Baldur's Gate 3, that would be Death Cleric 1 and Necro 11. So what this will do for the Necromancer is obviously gives you better armor class, also gives you access to some healing spells with Healing Word and Cure Wounds. Typically you'll just be using Healing Word if you want to use any healing at all. You also get access to Bless to help buff your minions. Not only that, but your Necromancer cantrips will be able to hit another target. So that's going to be a lot more use out of your Chill Touch, as well as the Toll the Dead, which is a pretty fantastic cantrip as well. From level 1 to 4, because that obviously have 5 upgrades, it'll do 1 to 8 damage, and then the upgraded version, if they already take the damage of 4, it'll be up to 12. So it'll be almost hitting as hard as Firebolt most of the time. And then you'll be able to hit on 2 targets, which is going to be great. However, Larian is going to be adding their Corpse Explosion ability from the Divinity series into the Death Domain Clerics, so we'll see how much damage that does, and it probably could be a worthwhile investment. I don't know if it's going to be granted to you at level 1, or if it's going to be like something you get at later levels, probably level 6 or something, but I guess we'll have to see. Death Domain Cleric on its own is just an okay cleric. You don't really get any too crazy spells that you wouldn't have access to otherwise, so we can go ahead and check over here on D&D 5e wiki. Yeah, so most of the stuff would just be things that you get from the Wizard class of spells that you wouldn't have access to as a cleric, but if you're going to be doing a cleric necromancer hybrid, then you're probably good to go here. The Touch of Death Channel Divinity is actually not too shabby either. You can use your Channel Divinity to destroy another creature's soul, blah blah blah. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can Channel Divinity to do extra damage based on your cleric. So you could potentially do an extra nice big necrotic hit. So maybe going pure Death Cleric could be a good way to go, but at the end of the day, you're still a Cleric. So Cleric's a fantastic class to be. So it's going to be good, and it's going to feel a lot better for Shadowheart, because now you can actually play a domain that's lore-friendly for Shar, but that's also not trash like Trickery. Yeah, Death Domain Cleric's really good. Well, I wouldn't say it's really good, but it's pretty good, and I really like it, again, for the Necromancer Cleric hybrid. So moving on to the Circle of Stars Druid, this is actually one of the better performing subclasses for Druid in the tabletop. You're going to have a few different ways to be diverse with your different starry forms, do different types of damage. Not only that, on tabletop you get access to casting Guiding Bolt for basically free based on your proficiency bonus, I believe. And yeah, it's a really good blaster druid subclass. It's really good. It's going to perform really well here for sure. Now moving on to Path of the Crown. I know I shit on this one a lot. It's not absolutely terrible. It's a lot better than Devotion, that's for sure. But Oath of the Crown is more of a, I guess, it's trying to be a tank in D&D and Baldur's Gate as well. So you'll be able to force taunt people and potentially take damage from other people. So we'll see how it performs with see if Larian made any touches to it. It's an okay Paladin subclass, if we're completely honest. It's a lot better than Devotion, but you get access to some interesting spells that the Paladin doesn't normally have access to. Typically things from the Cleric variety, so you don't have to dip into Cleric to get those. Yeah, it's going to be more of a tank-based class. Like I said, you get the AoE taunt, and you can potentially take damage from enemies or prevent. You take damage for them, rather. And on tabletop, there's no way to prevent this damage. The only way to really prevent it is by using temporary hit points. So that way it's not actually hurting your main hit points. But either way, we'll see how Larian does with this subclass. Could be good, could be just whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still a Paladin, so we're going to be good to go here. So moving on to the Arcane Archer. This one is an interesting one, and I want to see Larian's adaptation to this, because on the tabletop, it's just mid. It's not amazing, it's not terrible. It's just okay. You get some interesting arrow types, but we'll have to see how well they stack up against the elemental arrows that are already in Baldur's Gate 3. Maybe the Arcane Archer gets some interactions with these elemental arrows, in which case it'd be fucking phenomenal. Honestly, if they just had the talent from Divinity Original Sin 2, where you have a chance to just recover one of your elemental arrows, that alone will make the subclass worth it. But I guess we'll have to see what their take on the different Arcane Archer spells that we get, or the Arcane Arrows. The other issue that the tabletop had is that Arcane Archer relied on your intelligence bonus for a lot of the DCs for your arrows. So I guess let's see if they change that, or I guess we have to see what they do to add it. I'm not expecting too much great things from it, but with how powerful archers are in the game in general, it might just be just fine. I guess we'll just have to wait and see to see what Larian adds to this. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not expecting too much. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an archer, and archers are great in Baldur's Gate 3, so it'll probably be fine. Now, moving on to the Drunken Master Monk. So, I already know this one's going to be fantastic, because monks in Baldur's Gate 3 are phenomenal. They do a lot more damage and all that stuff, and I believe there's at least one or two, definitely at least one item that wants you to be drunk in the game. So, this is going to be obviously a natural fit for this subclass, and Drunken Master is a pretty fun one to play as. It's gonna be good. I already know. Because at the end of the day, it's a monk, and Baldur's Gate 3 monks are great. Now, moving on to the Swarmkeeper Ranger. This is going to be an interesting one, because Swarmkeeper is just okay on the tabletop. But it looks like they added a little bit of extra flavor here with the different types of swarms you have, such as the bees, the jellyfish, and the moths. So I guess we'll see how it performs. I'm sure it'll be fine. Again, because Rangers in the game are pretty decent, just like monks are. And yeah, it'll be interesting. The only issue I have with Rangers in Baldur's Gate 3 is just their level progression. So it kind of makes multi-classing with them a little bit difficult. Namely with one of their main upgrade features being on level 11. It doesn't give you much wiggle room for multi-classing. So yeah, Swarmkeeper will be fine, I'm sure. I'm actually interested to see some of the neat shenanigans we can do, especially with this new teleportation feature that they have access to. Now, moving on to the subclass I love the most for that are being released is the Washbuckler Rogue. Whenever I play tabletop, I usually always play a Swashbuckler. Mostly because I like to do charisma stacking, I guess, and a lot of their features for the Swashbuckler are based on your charisma. Well, really, it's just the initiative, but I'm actually really interested to see how it's going to perform. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. Looks like we got Pocket Sand here to blind your enemies, and then we got ways to disarm your enemy, and then Fancy Footwork is just going to work just like it always did. Whenever you attack somebody, you can walk away from them. Most notably, the Swashbuckler performed extremely well with the Sword Coast Adventure cantrips, Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade. I don't think they're adding those spells with this patch. I gotta double check, but if they do, oh my god, this will be fantastic. Because Booming Blade with Swashbuckler, chef's kiss. But there are some fun builds you could do with the Swashbuckler Rogue. One of my favorite Swashbuckler Rogue builds is combining it with the Battlemaster Fighter to really lean into the Swashbuckler side of things. We're going to pick up Riposte, we're going to pick up fainting attack, and disarming as well. But depending on how the disarming feature works on Swashbuckler, we could probably pick up a different battle member. It's really fun, and then also depending on how they implement Hexblade, we might even dip into there, because one of my favorite builds is like, you know, a 1-level dip of Hexblade. Yeah, shocker, right? Everybody does that. You just put all your points into Charisma, so that way you can be the face of the party, you got better initiative, and then all your attacks are based on Charisma based. However, of course, we know that Pact of the Blade is picked up level 3, and that has the Charisma based thing. So I don't think Hexblade's going to have that too. So I guess we'll see how it fleshes out. Otherwise, in that case, you could just do 3 levels of Hexblade Warlock with the Pact of the Blade, and then you can do 5 levels of Battlemaster Fighter, and then the rest in the Swashbuckler, and you probably should be good to go. But I guess again, we'll have to see what levels we get the different features from the Swashbuckler. Are they going to be all front-loaded? Are they going to be at level 6? I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, Swashbuckler's going to be pretty fun, and I think it's going to be a good, pretty solid rogue, because most of the other rogues are kind of lame. Alright, so moving on to the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. This is actually a pretty decent subclass. You get like a little Shadow Hound pet kind of thing, and you get some ways to kind of prevent your own death. And it's not that bad. I'm kind of curious to see how Larian will adapt it. I'm sure it'll perform just fine. I'm looking forward to seeing how it will be in action. Look at that boy. He's a good shadow boy. Alright, moving on to the Hexblade Warlock, the most notorious subclass in all of D&D 5th edition. Typically, this is a powerhouse of a subclass at level 1, mostly because you got your charisma-based attacks, and then you'll get shield proficiency, medium armor, you'll get your Hexblade curse to, you know, kind of like Hunter's Mark. You mark a target, and then you'll do extra damage every time you hit them, and then you can keep moving on to other people. In level 6, you get a Spectre to help deal some damage, and it looks like in Larian's version, it'll heal you as well. I don't recall if it did that on tabletop too, but we'll see how it goes. Hexblade is going to be notorious, so we'll see what kind of shenanigans we can do with it. I don't think it's going to have the same level 1 charisma-based attacks, because that's been moved to the Pact of the Blade, but I guess we'll see. So instead of seeing the level 1 Hexblade dip, we might see level 3 Hexblade dips, and getting the Pact of the Blade with charisma. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Hexblade's notorious for being really good, and we'll see how it goes. And Hexblade's actually pretty solid as a pure Warlock as well, so don't be listening to everyone else and saying, oh, you have to multi-class with all the charisma things, but again, we'll have to see. And moving on to the Wizard Bladesinger. This is actually a pretty sweet one as well, because people love Geshes, which are melee casters, or casters that can do pretty solid in physical combat as well. I'm really excited to see this into the actual game, and yeah, we'll see some kind of shenanigans. It'll stack up really well with a lot of the items in Baldur's Gate 3, especially ones that, I think it's Arcane Equity, where whenever you cast a spell, it helps you do extra chance to hit things with your attacks. So yeah, it's gonna be Bladesinger is gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be great in this game. So yeah, that's all the subclasses that are gonna be added. I'm really excited to play with all of these and see what kind of combinations we can come up with. Hope you guys appreciated my rundown of these and kind of get some ideas brewing through your head. And I guess again, we'll have to wait and see what Larian does with all these different subclasses. At the end of the day, they're all gonna be fantastic. I think probably the weaker ones are probably gonna be College of Glamour, Swarm Keeper, and probably the Crown Paladin. But I guess we'll see, and if you have to eat my words. But overall, I think they're going to perform it very well at the end of the day. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe for more videos like these, and keep an eye out for the guides that'll be coming up once I get my hands on this lovely patch. And well, I guess I'll see you in the next video or stream. Until then, farewell for now.